the dust on whether or not the Speaker of Parliament has the authority to declare seats vacant in Parliament. Well, the Supreme Court today decided to defer that judgment to tomorrow, November 12, 2024. Prior to this, the Speaker of Parliament, on the eve of the reconvening of Parliament, had accused the judiciary and the executive of colluding to weaken Parliament. Well, on the day Parliament resumed on the 7th of November, the NPP caucus, led by Alexander Apenyo-Markin, chose the opportunity to also accuse the Speaker of the House of putting fire or setting Ghana on fire. What are the implications of these and a possible delay of this dispute, as it were, between Parliament and the judiciary? How could it affect the governance of the country with just a little over a month to this year's general election? Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice Edu, and tonight we'll be looking at this issue as well as whether or not there are legal gaps as regards the separation of powers, part of our governance system, and also what's the ruling or the judgment from the Supreme Court tomorrow, how that could shape the relationship between the judiciary and Parliament. My name is Beatrice Edu. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight. And on my panel tonight, I have on my right Nana Todadze. He's a lawyer and also a former chief of staff, served under the Rawlings administration. He's got other accolades as well. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Agenda.
Thank you very much.
I have on my left Freddie Blay. He's also a lawyer and he's also a former First Deputy Speaker of Parliament after serving as a member of the House representing the Elembele constituency in the Western region and also a former chair of the governing New Patriotic Party. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on Agenda.
Fine evening. Thank you too.
And we'll be joined via video call by Kofi Bento, who is the Vice President of Imani Africa, to really delve into these issues and really moving forward the implications of what we are saying on the ground. But let me start the ball or set the ball rolling. And I want to start with you, Nana Todadze. Would you say that today's deferment of ruling came to you as a surprise, first of all?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to your esteemed viewers. I'm a bit surprised that this case is being adjourned, but well, we go to court, so we understand it. From time to time, the discretion of the courts come to play. So, well, let's see. It means that the big day will be tomorrow. Now, for us sitting here tonight, the dynamics will have changed, because Supreme Court is going to deliver of itself, a judgment. And here you are sitting talking about it, we are lawyers, senior lawyers are that, and so you can understand if we may not approach this matter, centered on the court proceedings.
Do I get the feeling that you were disappointed things turned out the way they did today?
No, because time is of the essence in this matter. You understand? Every single day that Ghana loses on this judiciary and parliament, brouhaha, we are losing our opportunity for peace. We are losing opportunity for peaceful transfer of power. And that is the danger we face.
The Supreme Court is wasting your time?
Oh, no, they are doing a fantastic job. But I'm saying that we must all bring some sense of urgency to this matter.
Let me get the preliminary thought of Freddie Blay. Your representative in Parliament started this whole case by going to court even before the Speaker of Parliament could declare 4 seats vacant. And this is where we are. Nana Todadze just said that time is of the essence. Today, 26 days, I believe, to the general election. There should be other important things to handle ahead of this polls.
I agree with him that there is a sense of urgency, and everybody wanted to see the finality of this matter, and maybe concentrate and focus on other things. Only 26 days from now, there will be election, and I don't want to say much about what is happening in court because it makes eminent sense to adjourn because it appears from what we saw on TV, the lawyers for Right Honorable Mohammed were not in court. And that was a bit surprising, but be it as it may, he did say that we don't want to go into the center of the matter as lawyers. But whatever it is, it's only tomorrow, and the court will give its ruling, and that should bring a finality, bring an end to this storm in a teacup. It shouldn't have been the case. Maybe if cool heads had remained or brought to bear on the matter, maybe we wouldn't have made in court about it.
Cool heads had prevailed.
Yeah,
So
I think that before you even come in, I think that should be what must be the underlying factor in this. He said two things, that cool heads must prevail, and then he significantly mentioned that there's really a storm in his teacup. I wholly endorse that.
You wholly endorse that?
Absolutely.
Cool heads must prevail. But at the end of the day, aren't we where we are? Would you admit subtly that perhaps if this cool heads that we're talking about had been discussed in the chambers without going to court in the first place, we wouldn't be here?
That's why I'm saying that cool heads should have prevailed. We don't want to go into the antecedents from what we hear before the matter. Maybe I'm told, at least for the benefit of your audience, that the majority leader had gone to see the speaker in chambers and discuss it with him. Unfortunately, that did not end it, and therefore it had to come to court.
But
So be it. It is what it is.
You heard him during that press conference. He said that, you know, if this thing could have been handled in Parliament, and I'm sure you watched that press conference by the Speaker, where he said that what happens in Parliament is like a closed book. And he went on to quote Article 115, 116, and even a case to 4 versus AG and all of that, and yet we still decided to go to court. He didn't seem to give the impression that there was a conversation ahead.
My very good friend, we come from the same school, had already indicated we don't want to go to the center of it. This matter couldn't be settled on the floor of Parliament because it's a question of it. One raises the idea of interpretation. Maybe you disagree, or you want the interpretation to be done by the Speaker. Others say that should be done by the Supreme Court. And that's what one person or the majority leader went to court and wanted the matter to be ended up. I believe the idea is that by tomorrow, we shall see the end of it, definitely.
By tomorrow, we should have seen the end of it, and I'll come back to you, but we do have also with us, like I told you, Kofi Bento, who is Vice President of Imani Africa, and he's a lawyer as well. Good evening to you, sir. If you can hear us, thank you for joining us. Let me first get your preliminary thought, really, on what transpired today, bearing in mind the things that happened with the accusations from the Speaker of Parliament and the counter-accusation from the NPP caucus leader, Alexander Apenyo-Markin, that rather it's him, Alban Bagbin, who is setting Ghana on fire.
Good evening to everyone, especially my seniors in the studio. Those of us who go to court do not find it too surprising what happened. I rather agree with the Supreme Court justices who are saying that it is not for the lawyers to be complaining about who is in court and who is not in court. That is for the judges to do. And if you have a case in court and you elect not to go to court, you have decided that, you know, the case should proceed without you. So maybe for everybody else, that's a lot of drama. But for those of us lawyers, what happened in court today is quite normal. The court taking an adjournment to come back and rule is also very normal. What people don't realize is that after hearing everything, they have to go and read, they have to go and digest, they have to consult cases, they may even have to discuss certain things, and then they have to write. And whatever they write will be studied for ages to come. So there's a lot of work between concluding arguments and then delivering judgment. So it's all very normal what went on. I wouldn't have been surprised if they gave a number of days to render the judgment because of the interest in it. Like I said, whatever they write today will be studied for ages to come. I am of the firm view that this is a very good opportunity for us to define for ourselves as a country what it means to cross carpets. You cannot say, in my view, that somebody deciding that I'm going to come back in another color, which takes effect in the next parliament, means they have, cross carpet in this parliament. Theoretically, it is possible to work with one group now and then come back with another group the next time. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they took extra time to look at the matter and try and do a surgical job to define very carefully what it means to cross carpet or to vacate your seat, because I am of the view that it is not the same as electing to come back into parliament or electing to stand for election as, or with a different political party. So in short, it's all very normal. And I hope that tomorrow we'll get a decision that we can all live with.
You hope that we get the decision we can all live with. But let me ask you this before we go for a break, and then we'll delve into the implications further. Aren't you concerned about the concern the Speaker raised, for instance, that we need to be able to protect the sovereignty of Parliament? And then we are talking about separation of powers here. Already, he said that it was wrong in the first place for a member of Parliament to run to court when this is something that could have been discussed before even considering the judiciary.
Parliament has no sovereignty. And when people bandy these words about, we need to be careful. The UK Parliament is sovereign. Wars were fought over that issue alone. So let's be clear. We had a time in this country where Parliament was sovereign. It led to detentions and people died. From that time, we learned our lesson and decided that we will not have a sovereign Parliament. The Constitution is sovereign. The people are sovereign, and it's the Supreme Court that interprets the Constitution. So all of us are under the Constitution. Parliament is not sovereign. It is not right to interfere in the processes of Parliament. When this whole matter started, people were saying, oh, it's an interference in the process of Parliament. There's no interpretation issue there. And I insisted that there was an interpretation issue because the Speaker had interpreted Article 97 and given effect to it. Now, if somebody disagrees, the place to go is the Supreme Court. So the short answer is there is no sovereignty for Ghana's parliament. Ghana's parliament is one of three arms of government which check each other. They make laws, the Supreme Court implements those laws and interprets those laws. If those laws that are made in parliament are not constitutional, the Supreme Court will strike it down. That's their job. Supreme Court is not sovereign. They are not senior to parliament. But their job is to interpret the law and the Constitution. So please, move off this whole point about the sovereignty of Parliament. That doesn't exist in Ghana's Constitution.
That doesn't exist in Ghana's Constitution. When we come back, we'll look at the implications and really whether or not damage has already been caused with the exchanges that have happened within the House and the dispute between the Supreme Court or the judiciary and Parliament. Don't go away.
Bawumia once said,
teachers are suffering, teacher trainees are suffering, nurses are suffering, and nursing trainees are suffering, patients are suffering, students are suffering, traders are suffering, pensioners are suffering, drivers are suffering, contractors are suffering, civil servants are suffering, and farmers are suffering. Fishermen are suffering, and industries are suffering. Artisans are suffering, and kayaye are suffering. The disabled are suffering, and men are suffering. Women are suffering, and children and Ghanaians as a whole are suffering.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
I'm a Ghanaian and I love luxury accredited faith. And I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana.
Peaceful election before, during, and after.
One Ghana.
Peace. Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana.
This message brought to you from the Lozi Accredited.
Dr. Bawumia once said,
every constituency will get $1 million every year for rural and deprived communities. Under this program, there should be no village or community in Ghana after the first 2 years that would have a water problem or a toilet problem.
Next joke, please. Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC. Dr. Bawumia once said,
we are building a new harbor in Cape Coast and a new airport in Cape Coast.
In 2020, we will promise an airport and a harbor. Fast forward to today, absolutely nothing. Sure working. Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. We are talking about that deferred judgment by the Supreme Court today, postponed to tomorrow, and also the fact that Parliament is still adjourned indefinitely, and the implications of all of these, and the brewing tension, as it were, in the system ahead of the December 7 general election. And before we went on break, Kofi Bento, Vice President of Imani Africa, was making a point earlier that he doesn't think that the Supreme Court of Ghana has sovereignty. We don't have that in the country. I want to get a thought of Nana Atodadze on this. You seem to disagree?
Well, no, I don't really disagree with the point that he's making. But so where is sovereignty? I think that it is very clear in our constitutional, under our constitutional mandate, that there are three arms of government: legislature, judiciary, and the executive. What people do not realize that in this country, under Article 57, the president is the head of state. You see, nobody's mentioned that. He is the head of state, head of government, and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So that places him a step over everybody else. Doesn't mean that he performs the functions of legislature or the judiciary, or for that matter, the executive as government. You see, there's a government. He's a head of state, but he's also a head of government. So he's wearing a different cap. One is head of state. He performs an independent function for the state. You see, the state is made up of the three arms. There are the three arms. So those three arms, they are Siamese twins, this cannot say he's superior to the other or that is superior to the other. You say, that is it. So equally, you cannot say that the judiciary is superior or has sovereignty over all the other arms.
So where do you draw the line?
What's that?
Where do you draw the line?
No, I'm saying that the line is clearly drawn in the Constitution. I'm saying that the head of state is a person who is in the couple. He's the head. You see, below him, we have the judiciary, legislature, and executive. Now, let me tell you something. Judiciary is important because it has a unique function the other arms don't have. The legislature has unique functions which the judiciary cannot perform. So also the executive have been given some unique functions which they perform, which the judiciary cannot perform, or the legislature. You understand? The powers to make law is vested in the what do you call it, in the legislature. The enforcement and running of the state It's not in the judiciary. It's not in the... So you must understand that they are separate but one, on the one head. Okay? That is our jurisprudence. That's how the philosophy behind our oppression of the state. You must understand that, you see. But it doesn't mean that the president can override in their judicial functions, they are independent. And so, in the legislature, in the legislative function, their actions cannot be impeached. That is Article 115. My understanding of it. The executive, the executive order, what do you call it, a curfew in Boko, who can overturn that? You see, so I just want to just highlight some, and also to say that I don't know whether I can mention quickly that, you see, my brother, what's my blay, you know, it's my colleague, sorry, he made a significant statement that this is a storm in a teacup. Did you say that?
I did.
Yeah, you did. I wish you had explained what it was like. So what are we talking about? What is the function of an MP? He is to be in Parliament to deliberate. The legislature is a deliberative forum. That's where you go and fight it out. He has been a speaker before. He knows what's there. It's a rough and, you know, game out there. You must survive. You argue you fight your case out there. You win or lose your case within the remit of Parliament. That is the essential thing. Now, now you have majority leader, you have minority leader, and all those. These are not constitutional bodies. They are not.
Well, the speaker talked about it during that press conference.
Well, I'm saying that they are not, but they are very significant. It's very significant to say they are not constitutional bodies. Whether you are a majority leader or not, you have to go to Parliament to argue your case. You understand? Now, who is a majority leader? The what do you call it? The standing orders of Parliament, you know, sets out who a majority leader. Majority leader, they say, is a member of Parliament designated by the majority caucus as their leader. Who is the minority leader? It says the leader who has been designated by the team with the largest, second largest in Parliament. But you see, there's another office designated in the standing orders. My brother can tell you. It's leader of government business. It's there. You see, a leader of government business may not necessarily be the majority leader. In a situation where the Parliament, the government, the executive, they don't have sufficient members to constitute majority, they, in effect, have somebody who prosecutes the government business. He's a leader of the government business. So what the point I'm making is that, look, the fact that somebody is sitting here as majority or somebody is sitting here minority, it's of no consequence. Really. It's no consequence. Is it the reason why MPs will not go to the Parliament and deal with critical matters of state?
But isn't it obvious that Africa will love titles? The fact that you have Alexander Apenyo-Markin repeatedly tell journalists that he's still the majority leader.
I'm telling you, I've given you the legal situation. I said that we have majority leader, we have minority leader, we also have leader of the government business. When you don't have the numbers in Parliament, you appoint somebody to be in charge of government business. It is there. It's a legal situation. You understand? Now, let me tell you something. There's this also thing about sitting, they should be sitting here or sitting there. It's really, I love my friends.
So you think that the MPs are making, you know, a mountain out of a molehill? That's what you're saying?
Let me tell you something. In sometime 1912, 1913, the U.S. House of Representatives, they used to sit behind desks with their names labeled and all that.
Before you go to that
extent, no, just let me make a complaint. Now, when they face a crisis like this, they decided they will abolish all these names and whatnot. MPs should go to Parliament. When they see a chair, they sit on it. I say up to today, 120 years thereafter, in the U.S. House of Representatives, it's first come, first serve. If you go there, you sit where you sit.
So you're buttressing what the speaker said earlier, that we are still holding on to the old system.
More importantly, I'm saying that it is inappropriate for any parliamentarian to go to say, I'm not going to parliament on account of the fact that somebody is sitting on my chair.
Are you indirectly criticizing Alexander Apenyo-Marking for his stance?
Well, the case is in court, but I don't disagree with him. I don't agree with his position. I've told you that the House of Representatives in America, 435 members or so, you understand, when they got to this river, they needed to cross, they took a decision. And we must take a decision. If there's a question of who should sit on the right of the speaker or left, we should abolish it. And just say that go into the leadership. You create a table for them to sit on. I'm saying this is actual practice in the House of Representatives.
And I want to come to you, Mr. Blay, but I just want to get clarity on what you just said, Mr. Dazi. I know that your preliminary comments suggested that you did not necessarily disagree with what Kofi Bento had said.
Yes.
But do I also get the understanding that perhaps you believe at this stage either of the institutions could be overstepping its boundaries? i.e. Parliament or the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, yes. But I wouldn't want to make a judgment tonight, you understand, because of the ruling of tomorrow. You understand? I don't want to make a judgment of
based
tonight.
on previous ruling, because the argument is that the Supreme Court shouldn't depart too far from its previous judgment.
Well, I haven't said that. I just said that, you know, they have specific functions. The Supreme Court has its functions. The legislature has clear functions set out. You understand? And in 115, you know, 116 says you cannot impeach proceedings. What does it say exactly?
Yes,
you know?
that what happens in Parliament is a closed book, essentially.
Yeah, I've heard the Attorney General, for instance, indicating that one was only in relation to freedom of speech. I've heard that some funny story like that, where it said that it shall not, you see, there shall be freedom of speech, debate, and proceedings in Parliament, and that freedom shall not be impeached, questioned in any court or placed out of Parliament. And they are saying that, oh, if yes, you can't impeach the parliamentary proceedings and debate, and so, but you can impeach their decision. I mean, what's the freedom? You know, it's like the joke that is you have freedom to speak, but we can't guarantee you freedom after you've spoken. Where is the freedom?
Mr. Blay, as we wait for the Supreme Court to deliver its judgment tomorrow, there's still that concern of what has already transpired. Those harsh words or exchange of words between the Speaker. Well, the Speaker said his at that press conference on the 6th of November ahead of the reconvening of the House, and actually directly accused the executive and the judiciary of colluding to weaken Parliament. And we heard Alexander Apenyo-Marking there also accusing the Speaker of rather setting Ghana on fire. You should be concerned about this.
Of course I am, but let me go back a bit and have a little comment on what my very good friend. Unfortunately, as I said, we went to school together, so I don't want to be too hard. I've listened to him throughout what he mentioned. I don't know exactly his main point. He agrees that there are different roles. He agrees with Bento that we don't have parliamentary sovereignty. We have separation of powers and separation as prescribed in the Constitution. What I can say about that is that we have different roles. He did say so. The different rules, interpretation of the Constitution exclusively left with the Supreme Court, not even with the other courts, but just the Supreme Court. He did say that making law, enacting laws, we leave it to Parliament. And then, of course, the executive has in its vortex all the power to execute the laws that are made. Clearly defined. These days, we also have a few institutions. The Auditor General, the Electoral Human Rights. We call them democracy institutions. They've also been put up. So, indeed, what remains of what the old theory of separation of powers is accountability. And fortunately, within the four walls of the Constitution, all rules are made. If you overstep your rule, then of course the interpretation as whether you overstayed or not goes back to the Supreme Court. That's its role. That's its role. Now, what has happened is that it's not that you are allowed to debate on the floor. You are definitely allowed to debate. You have freedom of speech in Parliament. But of course, if you take a decision to, for example, abolish the Constitution, you take a decision to, as it were, abolish parties, other parties, and so forth. Because anybody takes you to the, under Article 1, 2, or 3, to the Supreme Court, it will be struck out. But you have no power to do that. The Supreme Court can't strike a law that is made by the legislature as unconstitutional.
But was this a law? Was this a law?
What do you mean
is
by
this
that?
A law that is before them?
It's the Constitution.
No, I'm saying that is this a law, the decision of Speaker? Is it a law?
In fact, during that
in this case, that's what I...
No, between us, Supreme Court matter.
I don't want to go into it. Yeah, but unfortunately, to the public, my very good friend, Mr. Speaker, Abel come out to say that he was expressing his opinion. But of course, this has led to...
He didn't say opinion. He just said he gave information based on his own assessment. He didn't mention opinion, but he didn't mention ruling either.
He says it's not a ruling.
Yes, he didn't say it was a ruling.
No, please,
but he didn't say opinion either.
Please, if I can finish. On the floor of Parliament, there are rules as to what engagement could be. Times he can give a statement, time ordinary members can give statement, and motions can come, and then bills, all these things are set up. When the Speaker gets up and says, based on what someone had asked, is giving a ruling or giving a statement, and based on the statement that is made, certain actions occur. There is a problem. And as I said, even before that kind of ruling, we are told, the majority that have gone to him, spoken to him, that there is a conspiracy to bring such an action, that it could create confusion. So please, don't do that. I'm going to court. First he says he'll go to court, he don't go. And then later on he realized that it's going to happen. He goes to court.
So you don't see anything wrong with what Appenyo did?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's the right thing to do. Come and talk to the Speaker, and if the Speaker doesn't agree with you,
you tie his hands by going to the Supreme Court.
You don't tie his hands. You go to court for interpretation of what is about to be done or what is being done, so that there is law, and the law is governed by the Constitution.
But you know,
that's all.
I think at this stage, not to go back too much, but the concern is that, and today the AG was actually on the floor addressing the court during at the time that the court was hearing the case. And he said that Michael Okoye was wrong. But the government didn't say Michael Okoye was wrong. It took 4 years for this scenario or this case to come before the government realized that Michael Okoye was wrong.
What you're saying is a little bit out of context, please. When you want to go to the Constitution, go to the Supreme Court for interpretation, it's not a government that goes. It's an individual or a group of people that can go. If the Supreme Court is sitting somewhere and you have not taken your application or your motion or your matter for the Supreme Court to interpret, the Supreme Court Sumoto can't take the matter up. Of course, sitting here, I would say that I disagree with whatever that occurred in terms of declaring a CMR for Mena seat vacant at the time it occurred.
So how come you're not talking about it? Because 3 members of Parliament...
Listen, in the past I have done that. I have expressed my own opinion, even among my own colleagues in the party, that I don't agree to that. Because maybe in the past I have also gone through that experience before. So I said I disagree with it. But that's not the issue here. If anyone doesn't take the matter to court, it cannot be adjudicated. And in ACM's case, nobody took, ACM didn't go to court. So maybe he might have left it just like that.
But even
it doesn't mean that now, those who are dissatisfied, particularly considering the hung nature of Parliament, You can't say that people should live in there and change positions. And somebody called himself, who before then has called himself minority leader, just jump out and say, I'm come to sit here and today call me majority leader. That is total confusion.
Can I make a little point? Just tell me. I love it because you are colleagues, you know. I mean, if a member of parliament dies, what is the process for notifying parliament? What is the process for, you know, asking EC to substitute? Do you have to go to court?
No.
For a declaration?
No. Please go to the standing orders.
No. I'm saying I don't want to go into Supreme Court what they are going to do, and I will fully support whatever the land goes. They are right.
Don't let go there.
Yeah, but you see, 97F.
Yes.
It's a very interesting provision.
Oh, yes.
We all talk about G. In 97F, it says, if a member resigns from office as a member of parliament by writing under his hand, addressed to the speaker, by writing, he vacates his job. He said, I've resigned. Now, when you go to G, a very interesting scenario is created there. If he leaves the party, of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament, to join another party, or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent member. So here, he doesn't need to write anything. But if there is evidence, clear evidence that the person has left the party. But as I said, I defer this to the Supreme Court.
I have my opinion on that and say as to what constitutes living. Please, let's make a point, a little rebuttal of what he said.
Yeah.
As I said, I've been to Parliament myself, at least for 12 years.
He's trying to, if I got it correctly, Nana Tudaze is trying to bring some sort of context to the articles you are referring to.
Here, please.
Without necessarily being prejudicial.
We all talk about G, nobody talks about F.
No, but F, there is no much difference as what it is. What except that one resigns. The other one is when he leaves, leaving, resigning.
How does he
different from...
How does he leave? What's the evidence? How does it show that he leaves? When a person has entered his name, registered
leaving parliament could say on your own accord. Leaving parliament could be maybe you've been served for whatever reason under article even 106.
Yeah.
Leaving parliament mean that.
Sir, let me express a certain surprise.
I wish I could make my point.
Yes, let me express a certain. So I'm really surprised that the NPP, in particular, as an organization, hasn't run around to support the G the way it, the speaker Okwe did, because you see, there's a historical context to it, and we all know that under the first republic, CPP. Sorry, I don't know where to place you now, but
yes, with NPP.
No, I'm just getting this up. Okay, look, the man is a CPP inside out, but Master, it was because they were CPP. I didn't want to. Was depleting the.
I've heard at some place to say that. But as I said,
no.
Don't let's go into that.
No. We are not talking about law. We are talking about our historical context. You see, so it was because in this country we said we are not going to have a single party state. In this country we said we are going to run by what do you call it, multi-partyism. You understand? So we have to say we must protect these
we have to protect it. And I'll be coming to you, Kofi Benton, very shortly after the break. But before that, I just want to get a quick clarity from Mr. Blay, because Mr. Dazi, you mentioned that you were not completely. Mr. Bento, I think you want to come in before I ask that last question before we go on the break. If you've got something to say before we do that, please go ahead.
Yes, actually, with the earlier comments, there was a suggestion as if the issue of sovereignty was not clear. In the first article, the first clause of our constitution, sovereignty is cleared, and sovereignty lies in the people. It's written black and white. So
I just wanted to say
that's no longer an argument. We can move on from there.
We can move on from there. So I wanted to come to you because one point Mr. Dazi made was that he did not necessarily agree with Apenyo marking. As we speak now, the
agree
with Appenyo marking in terms of the decision of the NPP caucus to say that, okay, because we are not sitting here or there,
not coming back
we are not coming back to Parliament. You should be concerned about that.
Please, I'm a little surprised with what my very good friend Atudazi is saying. They've been in Parliament for the past 4 years, been sitting at a place. All of them know where you sit. It's only after this comment that you have decided not to go and sit there. And it's obvious that if they had gone, there was going to be a fight. And they avoided it.
So you agree with the boycott of Parliament?
It's not a question of boycott. They said that what has happened, Mr. Speaker, tell the people, because of what you said, look at what they are doing. They're going to sit at our places. If we go there, we may be forced to exchange blows and there will be chaos. We don't want to do that.
Yeah, but who speaks for the people?
Said you had serious
who speaks for the
business.
people?
No, but listen, if they had serious, if that matter had been taken up, and then by a day or two, you sorted it out, there was no need to.
I'm saying that.
But you said the last time Parliament was called, it was at the instance of the majority.
Listen, we've called.
And then you've come back and you're saying that because you're sitting at my place.
Wait. Parliament was adjourned CDD without a lot of government business being taken care of. They were surprised. They said, please, let's come back. And they went through the process and called through signatures and called back Parliament. You did come. And that indeed, they did not just come. They had engaged you behind the scenes that this is the reason why we had a little problem. Let's do this, and sort it out. You had, according to them, I'm not too sure, whatever it's...
But you didn't have the numbers.
No, listen, there was half of you. Even if you don't have the numbers, you adjourn for the next day or a few hours.
So why didn't they get seated? They just decided that, okay...
No, please don't, you are asking me a question. I'm saying they're going to sit at dawn. 6 o'clock, normally we go to Parliament around 9:10. We start sitting. At dawn, they've gone there. And what are they going to do? To sit at where they used not to sit. Remove tax. Yeah, he says, look, if we come in to say, I'm coming to sit where I used to sit, there could be a problem. Look, he has said that we should have Parliament where anybody can sit anywhere. But that's not what has been going on. If this is what is going to be done, let's all agree that this will happen.
Let me finish it.
We haven't agreed on that.
We haven't agreed on that.
It's only after your ruling.
Can I make a point? Just another point. So what I'm suggesting is that when we reach the river, we realize that we have a burden. You dump some of the items and you continue.
We have to go.
It doesn't make sense for us to have parliamentarians not going to Parliament only because they say somebody is sitting in my chair.
Please just hold on. When we come back,
when people have paid you to be in Parliament,
I'm surprised.
When there are serious matters.
Mr. Dazi, I'll have to come back to you.
Mr. Dazi, I'm surprised at what you are saying.
So let us agree. I'll have to come back to you, gentlemen, please. I'll have to come back to you, gentlemen. You have the opportunity to conclude on your thoughts. But you're still here on agenda on TV3 when we come back. Mr. Atudazi, as well as Freddie Blay and Mr. Kofi Bento will give us their concluding thoughts and really the way forward. Don't go away.
MPP, we have arrested the rapid depreciation of the city.
A nose-diving currency.
Are you running?
Which has rather arrested the person who said he would arrest, he had arrested it.
I understand.
The dollar has rather arrested him. And so we're looking for him, we can't find him. I asked the IGP if he had the key so that we could find where Vice President was, and he said he doesn't have it.
I understand.
I'm still amazed by the stuff that comes out of your mouth.
Vote John Dramani Mahama for president. Trustworthy, honest, and reliable. Vote for change. Choose the umbrella. Vote John Dramani Mahama and the NDC.
I'm a Ghanaian, and I love luxury accredited faith, and I love democracy.
December 7th, Ghana is voting.
Only peace. Peace, I give it to you all.
I love Ghana.
Peaceful election before, during, and after.
One Ghana.
Peace. Peace to everybody.
One Ghana. Ghana.
This message brought to you from the luxury accredited faith.
Champion!
My life wasn't always like this. I worked in a bank and had money in bonds to cushion me for the future. Then, with a stroke of a pen, my life was destroyed. My bank was part of the 420 financial institutions which the MPP government recklessly collapsed. What was to become the life of the workers? No one in this insensitive government cared. And suddenly, I was jobless. Their incessant borrowing also led to a debt restructuring program that affected me, and just like that, a significant portion of my lifetime investment vanished. Even worse, my lifetime savings from 30 years of hard work has been rendered useless due to the continuous depreciation of the cedi and extremely high cost of living in the country. Now, look at me. The fruits of my toil and sweat have all gone down the drain because of bad leadership. What to eat with my children is even a struggle. God, help me and the many who share in my pain. Let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. Change must come.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama at the NDC.
And you're still here on Agenda. Thank you for staying. We're discussing really what's happening between Parliament and the Supreme Court. And I have with me Nana Tudas, the former Chief of Staff. I also do have with me Freddie Blay, former First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, as well as the Vice President of Imani Africa, Kofi Bento. And I'm coming to you, Kofi, Mr. Bento, because in the midst of this, the question people are asking is, how will the ruling tomorrow shape the relationship between Parliament and the judiciary? Your thoughts?
The ruling tomorrow should not have any effect on the relationship between Parliament and the judiciary, because that relationship is already set in law. The judiciary, or let me say the Supreme Court, by the Constitution of Ghana, is the only body to interpret law in this country. Number two, the legislature, which is Parliament, makes law. But please note this. If Parliament makes a law and somebody goes to the Supreme Court to complain that that law is contrary to the Constitution or is not in conformity with the Constitution, the Supreme Court can strike down that law. What it means is that Parliament can do everything right. But if what they do is not constitutional, the Supreme Court will rule and cancel everything they have done. It does not mean the Supreme Court is better than Parliament. They simply have different jobs. And if Parliament makes a law that is constitutional, even if all the Supreme Court justices do not agree with that law, they will still have to use it and rule based on that law, as long as it is constitutional. So the question as to how this ruling is going to, change the relationship, it should not have any effect.
But they can cite precedent and change it. Is that not the case?
They can cite precedent and change what?
Depart from that.
Depart what? From what?
Depart from, I think from the beginning, we've been talking about a precedent that was set. Yes, now we are hearing, based on the arguments going on, that Michael Okwe was wrong and all of that. But again, the Supreme Court could make its own ruling and then look at precedent and decide to change it or set a new one.
Let us set these things in proper context. I think one of my seniors over there was explaining something to you. The Supreme Court does not get up by itself and declare things constitutional or otherwise. If you find a problem with a law or otherwise, it's in the Constitution, Article 1. You have to go to the Supreme Court and say, I find a problem with this. Can you please determine whether this is in conformity with the Constitution or not? And then they will rule. Let me make a point to clarify this. There are laws that we lawyers call bad law. And there are judgments that we say they are per incuriam, which means they were not ruled according to law. They are still on our books. The issue is somebody has to bring it up so that the justices or the judges will strike it down and fix that problem. The point I'm making is that the fact that Speaker Okwe took some actions at a certain time, I, for instance, disagreed with that. But I didn't go to court because it did not matter to me. And somehow nobody went to court because it didn't matter to anybody. It does not mean we cannot go to court, when the whole thing is repeated or when a similar thing happens again. So the use of what Speaker Okwe did really does not come up here because nobody brought it before the Supreme Court. That said, somebody has brought this one before the Supreme Court. You can't say that, oh, the other one was not brought before the Supreme Court, but this one has been brought before the Supreme Court. But because we let the other one go, we should also let this one go. That is lawlessness. Once you bring it before the justices of the Supreme Court, they will look at the Constitution, they will look at the law, and if they decide that this is unconstitutional, they will strike it down. We have had many laws in this country that have run for many years. My colleague Martin Pebu, a Public Order Act run for many years. The police were asking for, people to seek permission first. After some time, somebody takes it to court, it's struck down. So let the public understand this. You have to bring the issue before the Supreme Court.
You have to bring the
issue before the Supreme Court, then they will make a decision on it. When they make that decision, it is not an affront to Parliament. It is in consonance with the Constitution that says that it is the Constitution that is supreme in this country, and it is the Supreme Court that determines whether something is in line with the Constitution or not. And routinely, consistently, there are many cases where Parliament makes a law, the law runs for a time, somebody takes it to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court strikes it down. It is not an affront to Parliament.
It is not an affront to Parliament. Let me get your final word.
What's the name again?
Kofi Bento.
Kofi Bento, sorry. Kofi, I appreciate all the theories you are propounding.
And we agree with you.
But I don't disagree with him. But what I'm saying is, look, please allow me to. The point is, we have a crisis on hand. I thought the whole idea about our meeting is how do we get this crisis resolved? But one way is let's wait until tomorrow, the judgment of court. That's fine. I go by that. But I'm saying that when we sit here as elders of the parties, elders of the state and whatnot, we should be able to look at the problem and then contribute meaningfully towards resolution of the problem. And I've told you that if we have a very serious affair where we have serious matters of state outstanding, we must find maybe another way of getting Parliament to sit, to hear the case. I'm saying if it means free sitting, we should suggest that one. They will decide. He said, how do they haven't thought about it. There's nothing wrong with that. But secondly, I want to make a point that, you see, we have a very young democracy. We are just barely 30 years. They're barely 30 years as a democracy. America is talking about 250 or whatnot. You see, now we have what we term a hung parliament. That is all the crisis over the last 4 years. I will come down. It's a hung parliament. Now, we never thought that we would get to the situation where we call a hybrid government.
If you can wrap up for us, because I need to wrap up
I'm going to
now.
do that. I'm just going to do that. And sometime last year, we had the opportunity, Mr. Kwamna Hoy and I, and other professors had the opportunity of examining what happened on the 6th, 7th of January 2021. And we submitted a draft parliamentary transition bill. We realized they don't have rules and regulations guiding the process. So we submitted this, they've taken some, but we think that there must be a parliamentary transition law
There must be a parliamentary transition law to guide us. Thank you very much.
Two, there must be, free sitting. We abolish like the U.S. representatives. I have so many more suggestions we can
Indeed. We'll have to wrap it up here. Thank you very much, Nana Tudaze, former Chief of Staff, for joining us on Agenda. Also to Freddie Blay, former First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and also to you, Kofi Bentel. I'm sorry, we'll have to wrap up now. My name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda, and see you again next week.